So I wanted to make a quick video about the limitations of awakening and healing, and particularly the mindset that a lot of us have, which is very concerned and concentrated on healing and awakening. And towards the end of the video, I want to guide you into some deeper questions, actually. So as a bit of background, I come from the world of self-improvement, of personal development. That started because in my really young years, I went traveling as a way to escape from some of my personal problems. And of course, that wasn't a sustainable solution. And so when I came back to Europe at the age of 25, I found myself not only with some of my own questions about self-confidence and my value in the world, but also a lot of my friends had moved up in their careers really, really quickly. And I was like, just come back from backpacking and hadn't even started yet. So self-improvement promised me a really quick way that I might be able to catch up on a lot of the things that I missed out for, and then overcompensate for the things that as a young man made me feel unhappy or nervous or, not stepping into my fullest potential, let's say. And the world of self-improvement really is all about improving your skill set, your perspectives, your beliefs, your worldview, so you can be more effective and efficient in the world at getting the things that you want, usually the material things that you want. So it's beautiful, actually. It's a beautiful pursuit to be caught up in. It can give you many gifts. It really taught me a lot of things about communication, leadership, social skills, and so on. But I always operated under the kind of Scarface illusion, which is if I just keep improving myself, first I'll get the money, then I'll get the power, and then I'll get the women. And that sense of self-improvement kind of reaches its limit. There's a moment that we often reach somewhere along this journey where we're like, oh no, rather than learn more skills so I can strategize and get the things I want in my life, I still keep hitting this glass ceiling of unhappiness or repeated patterns. I need to turn inwards and understand what is unhealed in my psyche. What is my shadow? What are some of my unconscious patterns and dynamics? How do I get in my way? How do I work through my blocks? And then there's the other side of the question, which is awakening. How do I dissolve my thinking, let go of my attachment and my obsessions to certain things? How can I have a realization of the one consciousness and live in abiding peace and clarity and harmony, even if the material elements of my life are not really lining up in the way that I want them to? So you've got two different paths here, healing and awakening, and some people become a disciple of healing, more the feminine inclined typically, and some become a disciple of awakening. A lot of men sit there and meditate and awaken. And the beauty of these two divergent paths is that they help each other. So the more you heal yourself from your shadow, from your trauma, from your obsessive thought loops, when you do sit down and meditate and try and experience awakening, that becomes a lot easier because you've got a lot less stuff being triggered, running through your mind, getting in the way of the peace that's already actually there. And the same with awakening. The more spacious you become, the more power of concentration you get, the more steadfast and can remain in a state of presence, even though I'm going through pain and suffering, but I can still be with it without flinching. That whole skill set from awakening work is tremendous for healing, because you go into the depths of feeling some difficult emotions or some trauma starts bubbling up in your system. You can sit in the middle of your traumatic emotion and you can apply your awareness to the dissolving and the melting and the freeing of that traumatic energy. So two different paths, but they dovetail together in a really beautiful way. Now I live in Bali, and before I lived in Bali, I lived in Thailand, I lived in Amsterdam, I lived in Boulder, Colorado. I've basically been around the world following the map of where New Age people and kind of cutting edge psychology and spirituality people go and congregate and try and do their healing and awakening, right? I've seen many, many things. And what I notice in these places, and what I notice in thousands and thousands of people, that just healing and awakening becomes the reason of being. Actually, there's often so much attention and propensity and intention all wrapped up in being in the now, which is to heal ourselves, to heal myself, to awaken myself, to shift the way that I fundamentally feel, that actually it becomes a very self-centered approach. Sure, you have beautiful friends while you're doing this work and communities do it with you, but that's a lot of life energy and a lot of life intention actually spent on working on your own inner world. Now, I'm not saying this is bad. It's essential, I think, to go through a phase like this, but it runs into limitations because I meet a lot of people who are not considering much deeper questions of ultimate meaning, which is, what is this for? Where am I going with this? If I am healed and awakened, then what will I do? And so I think after healing and awakening, or during it ideally, there's two more dimensions that I'd want to invite you to look down. And one of those is lineage, and one of those is legacy. So there can often be a deep sense of not feeling like we belong in the world, or not being actually sure about what we want to give. Do we have a transcendent sense of life purpose and activity, a leadership, a creative pursuit, a kind of company that we can throw all of our energies into and create a real impact in the world? So rather than putting all my energies into myself and my healing and awakening, what about throwing that into something that is of creation or of service to a wide number of people? And it seems to me that there's a deeper sense of belonging and fulfillment available to a person the more that they get grounded into a commitment or a sense of living legacy. Like the legacy, yeah, maybe you'll leave that, whatever it is, your entire body of work at the end of your life, but there's a living legacy in a sense of every month, every week, every year, you're touching people, you're creating things, your leadership is going out into the world and it's having impact. So I think legacy is something to really start thinking about. After your next 5 years, let's say, of healing and awakening and running around the world and enjoying retreats and crazy practices and these beautiful friendships, what is the next stage of your life going to look like? Like once you come off the mountain of your wandering, where are you going to be? What do you want to do? Can you already feel a sense of soul's calling to devote yourself to something, to apprentice yourself in something? What is most meaningful to you? If you were to die, what are the things about life and the human spirit that you would most need to pass on to the next generations? Because without you around, they might not have access to it. What do you need to preserve that is beautiful about humanity? But what do you need to take a stand for to change in humanity, in your community? What is so sacred and valuable to you that you would give your life to protect it? So all these start to have us consider questions that are beyond us and consider ways that we can engage ourselves in a deep vocation to take us beyond ourselves. Legacy. And the other dimension that I'll invite you to consider, and I point behind myself because it's going back into the annals of time, is the dimension of your lineage. So a lot of personal healing will go back to our parents' generation. You know, Mom, Dad, I figured this thing out that happened to me when I was on a retreat. What were you thinking when I was 5 years old? What happened that made you separate? We sometimes go back to our families of origin and clean up a lot of the work that we discover along the way and have those integrating conversations with our parents. And it's really beautiful. We understand actually that who we've become is in large part because of the conditioning we got from our parents. And you might even look another generation back. And that's still in the realm of the personal. When I talk about lineage, it's like, have you studied your ancestral lines as far back as you can find them? Like, have you looked at the birth certificates? Have you drawn out the family tree? Do you have 200 or 300 years of factual data about who your family is, where they came from, what they struggled through, the geographical, the political, the war elements that have affected their lives, political tumult, revolution? What is the deeper story of blood that is going through your veins? I found this tremendously energizing. So when I think about my own healing and awakening, actually to stretch the confines of my sense of identity, so it wasn't just my 40 years of life or the 70 years of my life and my parents' life, but actually going back 300-400 years and looking at the social history and just what happened in England during this time to shape my entire family lineage. That gave me more of a change about my sense of identity and my sense of self than anything else. It's some of the most powerful work to look back. And then lineage is not just about your bloodline, but you can opt into lineages. So if there are poets that you love, if there are musicians that you love, if you've been doing martial arts since you're a teenager, if you join the military, right, you belong to different lineages. Every time you ever climbed a mountain, you are a mountaineer. Every time you sail a boat, you're a sailor. So we also are either ushered into lineages of institution or we kind of spiritually join them. I see myself as a burgeoning writer, and so I can relate to all of the writers who try to transmit a passion or an essence similar to what I want to capture in words. That's my lineage. I belong to those people. Without their gifts and their legacy, I would never be able to feel the way I do in my heart right now, or be inspired to give the things that I want to give. So, coming back to the essence of the video, self-improvement can really wrap us up actually more deeply with attachments to material things, and yet some of the skills that you learn are vital for survival in the material world. Healing and awakening is fundamentally important. Almost like I don't think we'll ever be able to give our deepest lineage gifts or our deepest legacies without going through an individual transformation of consciousness, a shifting of our deepest patterns, and the utter confidence that comes from meditation and knowing who we are. But if you stay in that mold and you continue in that one self-absorbed conversation, I don't think you're ever going to mature into your fullest, your more kingly, your more emperor, your more leading qualities. And so what I'm encouraging you to do through this video is just to consider, if you're in a state of healing and awakening and getting good value from that, or especially if you've reached a stage of diminishing returns from your personal work, it's time to start projecting 5 years into the future, 10, 15 years into the future, 20 years into the future, and to the end of your life. And after your death, how do you want to have given your life? When you die, what feats, what impact, what legacy would you need to leave behind so you can feel utterly satisfied with your efforts? And importantly, what is so sacred and so beautiful to your heart in this world that you would give the next decades of your life to attempt to pass on to the next generations? And the next generation is going to be radically different in this very fast changing world. The amount of what we know and find beautiful and meaningful that will be lost over the next 50 years is brain melting. And you might get resources and deep inspiration and a deep sense of belonging and a deep sense of purpose going forward by really asking yourself the questions about your blood lineage and the kind of spiritual and institutional lineages to which you want to belong. So if you enjoyed this conversation, these are some of the topics I'll be addressing here on my channel. Feel free to subscribe. If you want to get my latest writing, I also am about to publish a Substack, so the link is in the bio. Feel free to follow me on Substack. And my office is open, so should you want a one-on-one coaching call about anything dear to your heart or pick my brain about anything, you can sign up and get a session with me through the link below. Thanks for watching.